Good evening, everyone. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. For the past year, hundreds of immigrants received attorney representation in court free of charge. In 12% of cases, the judge decided not to deport the immigrants. The mother of a California woman detained in China for her faith. A U.S. representative now calling on the Secretary of State to help secure her release. Governor Newsom vetoes a bill that would have legalized hallucinogenic drugs. He says more treatment guidelines and medical clearance is needed. Breaking news, just this afternoon, a man armed with a gun crashed his car into the Chinese Consulate building in San Francisco. Footage on the Citizen app shows multiple police and fire trucks on scene. The incident happened at around 3 p.m. Firefighters say one person has been sent to the hospital with a gunshot wound. Police say the motive is currently unknown, but they believe the act may be intentional. The situation is currently ongoing, and we will provide more updates as they become available. People at risk of getting deported from the U.S. have been getting lawyers to defend them. But this San Diego County-funded program has drawn praise and criticism as hundreds of illegal immigrants receive free legal aid.
San Diego County, located right next to the U.S. and Mexico border, has been inundated with illegal immigrants trying to enter the U.S., some in search for a better life, fleeing their own countries.
Many problems like that.
This man arrived with 15 people. He was waiting to get a flight to the East Coast.
New York. I'm going to New York.
Whenever someone have this type of situation, they look for the better country with the better life. So I just decided to came here because I saw America with the best opportunity. So that's why I came here.
Some people provided food and services to ease the current situation at the border, such as this New York volunteer at the San Isidro Iris Transit Center.
Migrant populations. We feed people at the border. Sunday, we cooked at Casa de Luz, and we brought food to the border church. We're here a couple of weeks. And then we've made friends down here. We have friends we've made in Tijuana that we see every year.
Many of the people who crossed the border illegally could eventually face deportation. So back in 2022, San Diego launched the Immigrant Rights Legal Defense Program. According to a new report, the first 15 months indicated that the county had nearly 800 clients. The free service aims to help immigrants facing removal, deportation, or seeking asylum who don't have access to lawyers, including those who lived in the U.S. for decades. The tax-funded program costed nearly $1.7 million from April 2022 to June 2023, and the program is expected to expand, and it saw high demand in clients. According to the county report, as of June, 310 or 40% of the 782 client cases were pending. In 98 or 12% of the cases, the judge decided not to deport the individual, whereas 85 or 11% were ordered for removal or voluntary departure. 32% of cases were closed, including the attorney withdrawing or a change in venue. Clients from Colombia and Mexico make up the top two most common countries of origin. However, County Supervisors Joel Anderson and Jim Desmond expressed their concerns about spending county dollars on these types of cases, criticizing the defense program because 34 illegal immigrants, or 5% of clients, face deportation charges due to criminal activity. Some challenges of the program include the slow pace of proceedings and the need for early legal representation.
A California representative sent a letter condemning the Chinese government after a Californian's mother was detained for her faith. Now her daughter is calling for her release.
Representative Barbara Lee condemned the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP's, arbitrary detention and human rights abuses against Falun Gong adherent Kong Qingping. In a letter to U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken on September 29, 2023, Li asked that the secretary contact his Chinese counterparts and the associated judicial agencies in the strongest terms to secure the release of Kong, who is currently incarcerated in China for her faith. Li stated, Ms. Kong practices Falun Gong and was taken into custody without just cause for peacefully exercising her religious beliefs. Consequently, I have deep concerns regarding the well-being of Ms. Kong during her confinement by the authorities of the People's Republic of China, PRC. Kong's daughter, Liu Zhitong, who lives in California, has been working tirelessly to rescue her mother since the CCP arrested her on October 22, 2022. Her mother's most recent hearing was in September this year, but it was postponed because she was not feeling well and had high blood pressure.
The court hearing this time lasted about 2 hours. During the court hearing, the prosecutor Xiao Huiji and her assistant ignored the evidence provided by our attorney to prove my mother's innocence. When it was over, they said they still have evidence, so they will schedule another hearing.
Liu says she still hasn't heard from her mom. Falun Gong, also known as Falun Dafa, is a peaceful cultivation based on the universal principles of truth, compassion, and tolerance. After the introduction of Falun Dafa in 1992, the practice gained an estimated 100 million practitioners in China. Liu said since her mother started practicing Falun Gong in 2004, her once ill-tempered mother was able to restore her relationship with her mother-in-law and sister-in-law, which had caused much bitterness in the family. After Liu saw how the practice of Falun Gong improved her mother's life both emotionally and physically, she was confident of her mother's choice and fully supportive of her practice. Last November, she and other Falun Gong practitioners rallied at San Francisco's Chinese Consulate, calling for their family members' release.
Governor Gavin Newsom also vetoed a bill on Saturday that decriminalized the possession and use of several hallucinogenic drugs, including psychedelic mushrooms. Newsom championed legalizing cannabis in 2016, but he said more needs to be done before California decriminalizes the hallucinogens. In a statement Saturday, he recommended setting up treatment guidelines, dosing information, and medical clearance showing no underlying psychoses. Supporters of the bill include veterans who use psychedelics to treat trauma and other illnesses. But opponents say any benefits the drugs may have are still largely unknown. Parents groups worry the law would have made it easier for children and young people to access the drugs. Even if California made the bill a law, the drugs would still be illegal under federal law. Large businesses in California will have to disclose a wide range of emissions under new state law. Governor Gavin Newsom signed SB 253 on Saturday. The law requires more than 5,300 California companies that make more than $1 billion annually to report their direct and indirect emissions. That includes emissions from operating a building or a store and activities like employee business travel and transporting their products. Proponents of the law say it will push companies to reduce emissions contributing to climate change. However, the California Chamber of Commerce says it will create problems for companies that don't have the know-how to report their indirect emissions. They also say the federal government is weighing similar rules, which will make double the work if those standards are adopted. Under the new law, companies must disclose their direct emissions beginning in 2026 and their indirect emissions in 2027. We'll take a short break now, everybody, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. A school board president received death threats after voting in favor of a flag resolution. A concerned mom in the district in support of the resolution reflects on the societal changes that she has seen over the past 20 years. Tipflation, it's what some people are calling the increase in requests for tips. Some self-checkout machines are even asking for a tip. Fleet Week returns to San Francisco. The week-long event celebrates the U.S. military with air shows, ship tours, art, and more. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Zhang. The other day, a school board president told us he received death threats after board passed a flag resolution in September. One concerned mom who supports the resolution sits down with NTD's David Lam. She migrated from Hong Kong 20 years ago, saying there is now stark contrast in what the U.S. was like back then.
So, Stephanie Cito, thank you so much for joining me on NTD News. Now, you're a parent of 3 children at the Sunol Glen Unified School District, which has been under controversy after the board allowed only 2 flags, the California and U.S. flag, to be flown on school campuses. Now, what's your take on all this?
I'm really supportive on the resolution, and I think the board made the right decision that the American only allowing 2 flags on that flagpole. I've been talking to different parents, and they supported of that resolution as well, but they're too scared of, to speak up. But then, if that's the case, I'll speak up at every single school board meeting from now on. Yeah. Right now, what they have on that flagpole is only the American flag and the California flag that basically represent everybody.
What about the other groups, like there's the Pride flag and LGBT flag, where some people want it to be shown to have students under those communities to feel welcomed. Do you think that's like an issue?
Well, that will be an issue, because if you fly the Pride flag, then how about what if I ask you to fly a Christian flag? What if I ask you to fly, I don't know, POW, right? Because I think what the school board had done is basically just telling everybody that no other special interest group will get a special treatment. That's basically it. So it's not targeting a specific group of people. It's just actually being fair to everybody. It's concerning at some point, because we have seen a few times that activists protesting in front of elementary school. The kids from K to 8. You have a bunch of activists that are out there and protesting. As a matter of fact, I have to, after the first meeting, I have to keep my youngest one at home the next day and the day after, because I don't feel safe. I don't know what's going to happen in that school.
You migrated from Hong Kong to the U.S. in the early 2000s. What would you want to see for your kids growing up here?
You know what? When I come to this country, I used to live in Seattle. Seattle used to be very beautiful, and I didn't even have to lock my door when I go to sleep. It was so good. And then after being here for 20 years, you see the gradually decline, and the past 3-4 years it was drastic decline. I basically want to go back to when I came 20 years ago. I want to have a similar environment where my kids can feel safe, where they feel they can get the freedom of speech. I want them to be able to have a good quality education, reading, learning, writing, math skill, and logic, critical thinking skill, all that. I think that somehow it has gotten lost, especially for our younger generation, and it's scary.
How do you think education could change in the way you'd like it?
Well, I think it's very simple, basically. We just have to teach them facts and truth. One of my nieces told me her work at school, third grader. What they were teaching is about human right. But then still, this country was founded in a very wonderful story, but then nobody is teaching it. Nobody, why is that? If you ask me, the number one thing I would do, teach them history, a real history.
Stephanie Cito, thank you so much for your time.
Some customers say they are experiencing emotional blackmailing at registers. They're citing a new phenomenon dubbed as Tipflation. NTD's Stephanie Sakal tells us why.
Many of us have heard it would only ask you a couple of questions after a purchase and immediately feel pressured into tipping or guilty if not, even after the purchase was just a bottle of water at a store. Why is tipping becoming such a problem in America? The U.S. is often known for its tipping culture, but historians believe the practice likely originates from Europe. During the Middle Ages, upper-class people would tip their servants for good service. Historians say in the 1800s, Americans who traveled to Europe then brought the practice back to the States. Today, many businesses ask for tips even when there's no service being provided, like a self-checkout kiosk. Some people say it's leading to tip fatigue and affecting workers who depend on tips. Digital tipping prompts raise concerns about whether the money reaches the workers. We asked a Walmart customer his thoughts on this issue.
I'm a great tipper when I receive great service. However, it's kind of annoying when you go to a carryout, you just go to pick up your food, and they're asking you to tip. Like, why should I tip you to just purchase my food for a carryout? You know what I mean? I can understand if you are tipping when you're going to a restaurant and you are dining in, that makes more sense. But if I'm carrying out my food, why should I be required to tip? I think that's pretty annoying. And again, I don't mind tipping if I know for a fact that the tips are going directly to the workers. But when you are ordering food to carry out, you're not sure if the restaurant is actually going to give those tips to those workers. So that's kind of my concern there, and that's why I find it annoying.
Companies like Amazon have been caught keeping tips meant for their workers. And other companies like Walmart would ask for tips on self-checkout screens. So some people are starting to avoid tipping altogether.
Yeah, usually if their customer service is like through the roof, you know, I'll tip them if they go out of their way. But besides that, just ignore it.
Despite this, tipping is still expected in many places, and Americans are some of the best tippers in the world. According to a Forbes article, the pandemic made people tip more to help struggling workers. But now, with the rise of digital tipping prompts, some say it's become uncomfortable for customers and making them feel pressured to leave a tip. Others also point to questions of labor laws and fair pay surrounding tipping culture. Stephanie Sikal, NTD News, Los Angeles.
One of the biggest events of the year in San Francisco, Fleet Week has been hosting military showcases and concerts the past 7 days. NTD's Jason Blair brings us more on the festivities.
Air shows, ship tours, art exhibits, and more. In one of the city's most popular annual events, Fleet Week is wrapping up this year in San Francisco. The first San Francisco Fleet Week was 42 years ago in 1981. The event is now considered a model for Fleet Weeks across the country by the Department of Defense. For 8 days, there are various activities spread throughout the city. Some main attractions include ship tours, a ship parade, concerts, and of course, the Blue Angels Air Show.
This is my 4th Fleet Week in San Francisco, and it keeps getting better year after year.
We're just not all out there, you know, in wars. We're not out there just always trading. Like, we do good for the community as well.
The event brings in about $10 million for the city and provides a unique opportunity for the military and the public to interact in a fun and festive environment. Reporting in San Francisco, Jason Blair, NTD News.
Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for our sports roundup.
This is your California Sports Roundup, and I'm Carlos Reyes. Brock Purdy threw 3 of his 4 touchdown passes to George Kittle. San Francisco's defense hounded Dak Prescott all night, and the San Francisco 49ers extended their dominance over the Dallas Cowboys with a dominating 42-10 victory on Sunday night. The Niners knocked the Cowboys out of the playoffs in tight games the past 2 seasons, adding intrigue to this early season matchup between perceived contenders. The rematch wasn't even close. The Niners led 14-0 before the Cowboys got their initial first down of the night and were never really threatened on the way to matching a franchise record with their 15th straight regular season win and earning their 5th 5-0 start. Purdy calmly picked apart the league's stingiest defense to improve to 10-0 as a starter in the NFL, and San Francisco's defense made life difficult on Prescott all night. Prescott was sacked 3 times and heaved an interception into double coverage after Dallas fell behind 28-10 in the third quarter. He then proceeded to throw 2 more interceptions in the fourth quarter, with his only highlight coming on a 26-yard touchdown pass to Cavante Turpin in the second quarter. Purdy finished the night 17 for 24 for 252 yards and has not thrown an interception all season. Absolutely mind-blowing stats coming in from Mr. Irrelevant. He connected on a 19-yard touchdown pass to Kittle on the opening drive, a 38-yarder early in the second quarter on a reverse flea flicker, and then a 10-yarder to put the game away in the third quarter. The San Francisco 49ers will seek to continue their streak next week when they take on the Cleveland Browns on the road. That is it for today's Sports Roundup. Thank you for watching. I'm Carlos Reyes.
Thanks, Carlos. That's what we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with the friends and family. Send us a message on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gunjin World, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.